It's exciting this morning, Mike. We have a new guest. He's not new to me, but he's new to the podcast. I don't know what y'all's history looks like, but this is my friend Anthony King. It is so good to see you, sir. Dr. Anthony King.
That's right.
I was Mr. way longer, so it's okay.
So Anthony is in Plainview at Wayland Baptist. And Mike, I don't know if you are aware, and I'm sure you are, you're well-versed, you know all the things. But basically, he's rebooting the program.
Yeah, that's what I called it. I don't know if that's the proper terminology for it, but they decided they didn't want a band for a while. Now they've decided they want a band. And this man in front of us is the one who's charged with that mission. And
before I ask him about it, have you ever done that? Have you ever restarted anything like that before?
Have I?
You, Mike. Yeah.
No. I've always inherited programs, either good or bad, and just kind of went from there. But I've never had to reboot a program from scratch. Wow. I'm sure with Anthony, they had to go find equipment. Probably things were in dungeons stored around the university, stolen by the Plainview band or whatever. I don't know.
Let's do a quick history real quick for people that may not be familiar with our friend Dr. King. Tell us how you wound up in our part of the world. Now, listen, we know people listen as far away as, gosh, where all have we seen stuff happen, Mike? Europe, Saudi Arabia.
But friends in Japan and friends in England and friends in Germany.
But here we are in Texas. How did you wind up in Texas? Give us the as long or short synopsis as you want to of your history up to now.
Okay. Was born in Pensacola, Florida in 1983. All 18 years at there. Both my parents were teachers. And then when I graduated high school, I went to the University of Central Florida as music education with Jeff Moore. And then from there, it was a 5-year degree because they believed you do your 4 years and then your whole 5th year is all internship. So it was not your standard 4-year degree in terms of, college goes. But after my 5th year in graduation, I went to University of Nevada, Las Vegas under Dean Gronemeyer for my master's in percussion performance. And then after that, I moved back to Florida for a bit. Later ended up in Dallas. That was 2009, I believe, because I wanted to go to TCU and they hadn't started their program yet. And when I auditioned there, as I was told, there are about 150 applicants and they didn't accept anyone. And so they sort of put it on the back burner for another year. So then I started teaching public school as a certified teacher. And this whole time I had been teaching, just not, it was more of like a consultant or an adjunct or, private lessons teacher type role. So I did that for a year. And then I started at Texas Tech in 2010 for my doctorate. And in my second year there, my professor, who I'm sure you both would remember, Mr. Shen.
Oh, yeah.
We were in lesson one time and he goes, "You're Baptist, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Well, there's this little school up north."
Question or an insult?
Yeah. I was like, I'm Baptist all my life. And he was a Presbyterian. And he goes, "Well, there's a school up north called Wayland Baptist. You ever heard of them?" And I was like, "No, sir." He goes, "Well, it's in a town called Plainview, and the percussion guy there is leaving." That was Kevin Riley, if you guys remember that name.
I remember Kevin.
He was at the high school, but also adjuncting at the college, at the university. And as I understood, he was leaving to go be with his brother down in Austin.
Yes.
And so obviously that created a void. And so he was like, "Well, they might need an adjunct, so you may reach out to their director of bands." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I sent him an email, and that was Mr. Kelly. I'm sure you both know Mr. Kelly. We went out to lunch, and I adjuncted in 12 while still getting my degree. Became full-time director of athletic bands in 13, and graduated from Texas Tech in August of 14. And that's how I got here.
Cool.
So, yeah, never left.
So just generally, were you there when the decision was made at Wayland to not have? Did they eliminate the entire music department? Was it just the band?
That's a great question. So what had happened was, as my kids said,
What had happened?
well, this was, you got to sort of remember the time. This was, we were in the middle of COVID, and there was a lot of trepidation in terms of, well, I think just nationally in terms of the arts and everything, everything was sort of on hold. And so what the university decided, several people within the university decided was, as you guys both know, the arts are expensive.
Yeah.
And I try to say this even with music appreciation, which I get to teach, which is awesome. The arts have always been funded by philanthropists, especially when you're looking back in, the 1700s. It was the royalty doing that. It was not some sort of publicly funded thing. It was one person or a family that said, well, here's several $1,000s or whatever.
Here's an endowment.
Right. And so what eventually ended up happening was, because of the financial situation of the university and the nation at that time, the decision was made, well, instrumental music is terribly expensive, so this is how we're going to save money. I mean, it was literally a money-making decision. And as I've told many colleagues at that time, the way it was easier for me to deal with, because I was the athletic band director then, and there were two of my colleagues that were also involved in that decision. I was serving the faculty senate president at the time. And so I got to really get into the upper administrative aspects of what the university was doing. And so when that decision was made, for me personally, I could see it far less emotionally and personally and much more professional and dollars and cents. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of my colleagues and even former students were up in arms, and I'm grateful for that. For me, it was kind of like, that was their decision. They were charged with sort of leading the university and protecting the university in that way. And for whatever reason, that's the decision they made. And I would always be very clear. That doesn't mean I agree with it. It just means I understand it. And so once we left, I did think it was strange that there was a conscious decision not to sell everything. And so it's kind of like, well, why would you not have a program but not sell everything?
Yeah,
right.
It is interesting.
Then, come to find out, I had left the state for a semester, came back, was working in high schools, and then I got a phone call about, hey, what do you think about the possibility of maybe, And so here we are. So when I came back, technically last spring, my apologies, nothing had been sold instrument wise. So we have all of the same stuff we had when I was here the first time, which in some ways makes it even more strange. You know what I mean? Like you walk in, it's like, oh, wow. Like
it was preserved.
Yeah.
Like walking to grandma's house and taking all the sheets off the...
all remember the clear lining that used to be on the sofa at grandma's house? It's like,
Little house smelled like cigarettes. Yeah.
Like, well, that's interesting. Okay. So
I did not wear shorts to grandma's house because I stuck to everything.
Especially in the summer. Yeah. Cause you get little bakes too.
So let me, Mike's heard me say this before, because I've obviously not been the teacher guy. I've always been music retail guy. So the business aspect of it, at some point, math is math. I kind of hear you saying that. You can understand it from the standpoint of the emotion. And Mike and I are very big proponents that music is emotion and is expression. And sometimes it's hard for emotion to understand math.
Yeah.
But math is math.
Yes.
And if they couldn't afford it, they couldn't afford it. So I get that. It still doesn't make it fun, I guess.
Right.
Right.
Well, and the thing is, we, as you said, you're a businessman, and Mike, about running businesses. I mean, essentially running a high school band is like running a business.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that you don't have the money. It's how you decide to appropriate it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's where, for me, like I said, it was like, I get it. You could pay for this. You just feel like other things are more important. And that's your right to do that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it's my business. You know what I mean? Like, it's your business. And the one thing that has made that a lot easier for me is, as a teacher, even though I'm primarily employed at Wayland, I still consider it as a partnership of Wayland. In that, like, my main job is to educate people to be better musicians, to be better people, and to serve the Lord through that means of serving other people, right?
There you go.
Now, the university can decide to partnership with me on that, and that would be great. That's awesome. But the university and we both have the right to say, we don't want to partner with you anymore. And I could say that too. I mean, that's called quitting, right?
Okay.
So just as much as the university has that side of the contract, I have this side of the contract. And so like I said, for me, when that decision was happening, it intellectually and spiritually and culturally made it easier for me to say, we're just not partners anymore. That doesn't mean I'm not going to serve you guys as my students. I will still work with you and do the best that I can for you. It's just not going to be with Wayland.
Yeah. Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Pretty admirable. I like it.
Yeah.
So fast forward then,
Yes, sir.
when they approached you, stop process, and you don't have to go way deep in the weeds if you don't want to, but I'm kind of curious what made you decide, okay, great, we're going to partner again. And then what did that mean for you from how do we say this, a practical standpoint? What has it been like? Did it just turn the switch back on and all the electricity was going and here we are? Probably not.
Yes and no. It's been very interesting. As I said before, when I left, I would say it was only God that protected me emotionally, not to get angry or frustrated, or, like I said, it was very much well, that's business kind of deal. There was no ill will in leaving. If anything, you guys know how when you're in situations and things happen, you sort of go into fix it mode, right? Like, I don't have time to be emotional. I gotta get a job, or I gotta do blank. You know what I mean?
Yep, I do.
So that's what it was for, that first year and a half, where it was like, well, I got to work, and so when that sort of eased, there was no emotion fallout. It was just, oh, now I'm gainfully employed type deal. So when I was at the high school in town, and the way I got back here in Plainview was Mr. Kelly, who I told you hired me at Wayland, was the assistant director at Plainview High School. And at the time, I was down at Monterey in Lubbock, Texas, and he called me and we went out to lunch. And they basically were like, hey, man, we know how you work. We know, your value system and all that jazz. We'd love for you to work with us again, if you want to work with us. And Mr. Kelly is like my dad in terms of, just professionally and musically and philosophically, right? The way we deal with music and all that. And so I started working at Plainview when the opportunity came up here, it was actually, like I said, a fairly easy decision. I have most of my colleagues are still here from the first time. So it was in some ways kind of coming back home. And that was when we basically just full bore recruiting turned on again. Cause the only program that was actually cut was the instrumental program. So choir was still going on. And theater sort of was absolved into another outlet, if that makes sense. So there's now a community theater program, which is run by the same guy, which is Dr. Kuhner. So that program just stopped being through the university, but it still exists, if that makes sense. So yeah, when I came back, I would say the first 6 months to a year was sort of re-engaging the public, because, Wayland's been around since 1908 and the band program had been around since, the early 40s. So when that decision was made, there was a lot of fallout emotionally and culturally through the area, understandably so. And so when the program came back, it was sort of, I knew that I could be sort of a sacrificial lamb, as it were, to go out and say, look, no, I've met the administration, the new president, she's awesome. This is what we're doing. We are back. You know what I mean? And sort of the peacemaker. And that was one thing that was pretty cool, was before that decision was made, the current president, her name's Donna Hedgepath. She's awesome. And the current dean of the school both came over to the high school to come and talk. And part of her deal was, I just want to know what happened. From your perspective, what happened? And she was very receptive. It's about an hour and a half meeting of just sort of talking, hearing things through. And then, like I said, from, I would say, last fall all the way to this current past fall, she's been at almost every single, she's been to both team EAs just to see the alums. And the first year it was, I want to hear your perspective. And it was essentially, as you can imagine, it was essentially sort of like a group therapy. Like, what happened? And she listened to the alums sort of vent their frustrations. And there's no better way to say that,
Yeah.
And as you could imagine, there were some mad alumni. How dare you, pointing fingers and all this stuff. And she gracefully took it and said, well, first of all, that was not me. I understand your frustration, but it wasn't me. But you guys know, it's hard to sort of take those arrows sometimes when, A, you didn't do it, and B, now you have to fix it.
Yeah.
So she's been, like I said, she's been very gracious with that sort of olive branch. And then, like I said, this past year has been a lot of essentially me going out to do what I've always done, ironically, which is go to the region meetings when they're not conflicting, because for whatever reason, Region 1 and Region 16 love to have their meetings at the same time.
Same day.
So I go to as many as I can. I go to as many UIL events as I can. I don't really like barging in the band halls unless I'm invited. I just respect the profession too much. Because when you have a room full of 80 kiddos, it's hard to be sidetracked or railroaded when someone you don't know comes in and, hey, I want to talk, or hey, I'm just here to listen. So I don't like to go unless I'm invited. But when I do, then I get to talk to kids. More often than not, I'll play for them and talk to them. And so that's kind of where we are, just reestablishing ourselves culturally within the community.
Very cool. I think too, from my perspective of being a high school band director, my question would be, and let me back up just a second. So,
yes, sir.
I always took great pride in my kids continuing in college.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool. I mean, even if if they're an engineering major or want to be a preacher someday, whatever, but they still played their horn. I took that as that my program's on the right track. And so between you and I, you on the university level and me retired from the high school level, what are some things you're looking for students that maybe my fellow band directors out there can help prep their kids for a good experience of auditioning?
Yeah, I would say for us at Wayland, and I know it's different than a lot of other places, our primary focus is on the intellectual side of things. And what I mean by that is, do you enjoy what you do? And I think, to your point, Mike, it's so important that kids want to keep playing. You know what I mean? And that's sometimes a point of contention where you'll see a kid graduate and it's like, hey, why don't you come here? You can be a part of the band. And their first sentiment is like, no, thanks, man. Yeah. Like I'm burned out. And it's like,
they're burned out.
Oh no. You know what I mean? It's like, but you're so good, like you're so talented. Like you have so much potential to move on. And that's not to say even per se that I want you to be, the next professional symphonian with blank blank orchestra. I just want you to keep playing.
Yeah.
And so that sometimes is kind of hard. But what I would say to keep going, or for a student to prepare to keep going, is really assess why they do what they do. And I think a lot of times, and I believe you guys said it correctly, we're the emotional arts. We are arts, and a part of that is allowing our emotive nature carry through in what we do. And so for me, it's that aspect of, well, it can be a good emotional stress release for the engineering student or for the biochem student where, balancing these chemical equations or working on these formulas or understanding these other things, that's my job. But to refuel my batteries, I get to be in the band.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I was going at. That it took me into my adulthood to realize the therapeutic nature, I'll use that term, of expressing myself musically.
Mm-hmm.
That it didn't have to be, I didn't have to be a musician or a 9-to-5er. I could be both.
Right.
And they complement each other once you quit trying to separate them, trying so hard to create boundaries with them, I think. But the fact that it may have been a really hard day crunching numbers, it's amazing what 30 minutes with my instrument or even letting somebody else, just listening to somebody else be creative would do to restore balance.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that sounds deep and silly, but I'm telling you that it is still it's gotten to the point that I recognize sometimes, like, sorry guys, and you see my guitar's behind me, I'll tell people, sorry, I've got to go. It doesn't matter that I'm not world class. Making music does something soulishly that I kind of need as a balance in my life. So I appreciate to hear you say that. That's a good way to say that.
Yeah, I think it's fundamental to not only your psychology, but also your just your spirituality. You know what I mean? Like you get to create sometimes in such a way which is spontaneous, like improvisationally, but you also get to just sort of admire the mind of other composers and sort of dive in. Like that's one of the things I'll tell my students when they're working on private lesson. Like, composition's a musical game, and your job is to figure out what's the game he's playing. What game is she playing here? Like, why is it moving this way? And that in itself is sort of like cryptology, like figuring out the code, like, oh, they're doing this, then this, then this. And that helps you appreciate it more. And that helps you to really think about other problem solving situations in life differently. Which, as you guys both know, that's why medical schools love people who have been in band, because there's a lot of things that you can assume by seeing that. Like if you're a first chair player in a high quality band program, I can assume you practice. I can assume you understand about time management to some degree. I can assume that you understand what standards are and meeting them and the processes to do that. You understand how to be a team player. You understand how to lead, because if you're the first player, you're probably having to coach other people, not necessarily as like, I'm your private instructor, but no, A flat goes like this. No, G's like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's some sort of management going on there. You understand how to lead by second chair. And what I mean by that is, like, well, just because you're clarinet section leader, that doesn't mean you're controlling the entire band, right? You're controlling maybe the 3 or 5, or, if your director has so given that role to you, maybe it's all the clarinets. But if the clarinet section's rocking it, that doesn't mean very much if you're trying to do it at the expense of the trumpets or at the expense of percussion. Like, you've got to be able to lead your section well as they function as a part of the whole thing. You know what I mean? So there's so many aspects of that outside of band, I can wrap into culturally understanding that you were in band. Those are all sort of like, oh, okay, you got that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one thing I'll tell a lot of people too. Is like, look, this isn't, you guys both know Ken Walker, and he has a quote that I love a lot. He goes, "My job's not teaching you music. My job's teaching you life. I just chose music as the vessel to do that with." And I think those are wise words, and those are apt words. Like, you're gonna get your job is to trust me. I'll tell students this: your job is to trust me that my job for you is your success. That's my only job. So whatever I'm doing is to try to get you to be successful. And that does not necessarily mean to get a 1. The 1 is evidence of that. So I need to pick good music. I need to pick music that you're going to enjoy. And if you don't enjoy it, I need to at least try to make it a way relevant to you that you could appreciate, and then from there, it's my job to give you all of the mechanisms. Okay, well, maybe you should come by the office at blank time so we can practice that. Let me find this instructor to help you with that. Let's talk about these things that can help that to be more manageable. Well, you have 24 hours just like I do, and I have more stuff to do than you do. So let's figure out how we can get at least 30 minutes a day on this. Well, maybe it's this scale pattern that's giving you trouble there. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to help them be all those time management things so that when it's not about fingering patterns, it's not about learning how to tune that chord, it's not about, the correct step size to get to this formation. It's, well, how do we figure out a way to find $30 because we're about $30 over budget on this project? Okay, that's not music. You know what I mean? How do I get this colleague that doesn't quite understand the right direction to go for the program is this way, not that way, because if we do this, then we're going to run into overages, or that's not going to socially pan well because our parents won't like that. So we're learning about how to deal with life situations. And like I said, the vessel is just music. Band is a really good social microcosm. And if you can't operate in a band very well socially, that also pertains to, quote, carrying your weight musically, then you're going to have difficulties carrying your weight or interacting with society at large. And the neat part is a lot of our students that graduate, you see them being so dadgum successful, not just in band, but also, we've got former students in the Navy who are just doing a bang up job, just doing really cool things. And he still texts me, hey, I'm in Japan now. It's like, holy crap, that's cool. Like you're, and I'll joke with him, like, you're doing the cool stuff, man. We're just hitting stuff and making music, like you're literally defending the country. And that's an awesome calling. But, to know that he attributes some of what he learned in the Navy and how the Navy viewed him as a highly valuable asset because he was in band. This cat was a music major. He wasn't doing anything with electrical engineering or, design or anything like that. And now he's dealing with weapon systems. So it's like, oh, well, that's pretty cool.
Well, weapon systems and percussion.
Well, you're right.
There's a tie in there.
What we're going to use.
It's funny you mentioned that because I think that's a great point to make. My son, when he went for his interview at Texas Tech for medical school,
yes, sir,
because he was president of the student body, captain of the football team, and president of the band, and they didn't ask him about anything except for band.
Yeah,
and the quote that he came back, it just blew his mind. He goes, "Dad, all they asked about was the band." He said, and the person who was the head of the committee said, "Well, we really like band, orchestra, and choir students because they work together as a team and they don't require a lot of individual recognition."
Right.
They do it for the team.
Yep.
They don't do it to hear their name announced. And he said, it kind of like as a football player, he said, it's kind of nice hearing your name announced over the PA as, such and such number 44 on the tackle. We don't do that in music per se. So I think that's a cool thing. Has it been hard recruiting with the break that happened? The kids buy in? I guess it helps because you were there both times and you've bought in. So
Yes, sir.
you put your life on you put your money where your mouth is kind of thing. It's not just you talking, but has that presented any sort of problem at all?
The biggest thing has just been sort of the people who don't know just don't know. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So there's been a lot more excitement from folks who were around the first time and, now sort of see the products of what Wayland has put out, the School of Music. And then obviously the alums are excited. But, like I said before, there was a lot of, what does that mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be true for the next 1 or 2 years, just to see the university and the administration follow through on what they've said. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. That's just sort of culture of pain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You touch the stove once, it's hot, and you're going to wait to touch it again to make sure it's fully off. You know what I mean? It's that type of thing I get the sense of. But as I've met students and have been able to be in front of students, the first thing is just getting in the door to have them want to talk to you. And then the second thing is getting them to actually audition. And that process is still a work in progress. And it, like I said, it's gotten a lot better. But you will see, or at least I've seen, just the overall fear of actual auditions, because they sort of view it as like a, Met Opera audition where I've got to have these etudes ready and everything has to be completely polished. And can I get another week to work? And it's like,
man, I'm glad you brought that up because that was the main stumbling block on my end. I would say, you're going to UTA or West Texas State or Texas Tech or Wayland Baptist and say, are you auditioning for the band? I don't know if I'm good enough. The kid's like an all-state trumpet player.
Yep.
Yep. It's like I told, you can say this is not right. It won't hurt my feelings. But I just always told them, said what they really want, in my opinion, is a good person that knows how to handle their time management and can make a good sound on their instrument and is decently versed in what they do, and they'll take care of the rest of it.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to go in and play, 4 concertos or do orchestral excerpts on trombone. It's like, just play your solo you played at contest and do one of your etudes from all region band. So they just want to make sure that you know what you're doing there. They're not looking for necessarily, they would love to have virtuoso musicians, obviously, but that's not the bread and butter of any band program.
Right. Well, in fact, that's called a conservatory, right? And
yeah.
that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just what they are looking for. And I agree with you. I feel like, in my perception, it seems as though that a lot of times college band programs will sort of treat it more like a weed out than an open door in. And what I mean by that is, well, if you can't play this, then, let's just wait till you're serious to do music. And it's like, that doesn't mean that they're not serious. It just means that they lack some skills, which ironically, that's our job. Here to play. That's literally our job now. You be a better player. So why am I pushing you out for not being, quote, the greatest player? So you are correct in such that that's why our audition process, we don't necessarily have you should be able to play or you need to play. Like, I just want to hear you play. And then I think a thing that's even more important or as important is we have an interview afterwards and we're asking them, so what do you want to do? Like, I just want to see you interact with my colleagues. And so a lot of times, especially if I know the student, I won't say very much because I want to see them interact with someone they don't know. Because, I'm very passionate about having that student come out with me while I teach, so if I get invited to go do a band clinic at a local high school, I'll take 4 or 5 of our students with me. And then I'm up top running the tower and I sort of assign them to be on the field or to be up with me so they can see the large scale mechanism. Because a lot of times where music education, I think, sort of falls short is, you're in it as a student which is awesome. You get to play in the band, you get to, be on the field, you get to see the crowd. And then surprise, you look up and 4 years later, now you're in the tower. And we don't really ever get a chance to see the mechanism for which all the sausage is made. And I think that's sort of what causes burnout is, well, I thought this was going to be all sunshine and roses and lilies like it was when I was a kid. And it's like, yeah, but when you were a kid, you saw so much less of the pie. You didn't even know what was in the pie. You just knew it was apple pie. And so, college, I think, the way it is now, the university system sort of just says, well, you need apples and you need flour. Get out there, kid. And we're not really, the system in my opinion, hasn't done a really good job of saying, okay, this is why you need this much flour. Not just that you need flour, but this is why you need this much flour. And this is why cinnamon is good, because this is what the cinnamon does in the ingredients. And this is why your oven needs to be heated to this temperature. And this is why it needs to be this long. And it's more of a like how to think about it rather than just do these things and you'll be great. Check, 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 check. And I feel as though when I can invite that student up in the tower with me, then they could see, oh, that's why you address that first. That's why you do this first. That's why you have that conversation with that director about this. That's the way to ask about that situation. This is why you talk about this with that kid and not necessarily that. Because you, as you know, Mike, as a teacher, if you have a student whose significant other, mom, dad, brother, was just arrested the day before, they probably don't care about tuning that cord.
That's right.
And if you don't know that, you can't address that properly. That does not mean you don't care or you brush it off, but it does mean you give fact that you do recognize it's just not a good day for them right now.
Yeah.
It's just not a good day. And I'll tell my kids all the time, or my students, you're allowed to have bad days. You are allowed to. We just can't let those bad days outweigh the good ones.
Yeah.
And I will let you have a bad day. It's all good, man. It's all good.
I always tell my kids too that, and I'm allowed to have a bad day too.
Right. Right. Like Dr. King's not feeling it today. And generally when you're honest with them in that regard, they step up.
Yeah, they do.
It's so honoring. I mean, I've never felt cooler than when I'm having a bad day, And
just admit, yeah.
It's like, hey guys, I'm sorry. Like, this is just not a good day for me. When my parents passed away, I was teaching, and it was sort of like, my mom just passed away, y'all. And, I know y'all don't know what that feels like, but it's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
But I'm here and I'm probably going to be leaving at the end of the week, but we got some stuff we need to do. So if I'm frazzled, I'm so sorry, but I'm here with you. And to see those kids sort of rise up to the challenge and say, well, we love you, Dr. King. Like, we're here for you. I think that's successful teaching.
That is.
That your kids want to create that culture. And they come together, not, like I said, not just to create good music, but because they see someone whom they respect, sort of emotionally going through the ringer at the moment, and they're there to support them. And I would hope that our kids, no matter, what level of degree they're in, that they would feel the same way about us as educators. Like they see that I'm not having a good day and they're being gracious. And that's not for us to have that student come back later and say, well, thanks, you're gracious. But it is for them to realize that that's the humanness of what we do. And we can see you're not just trumpet number 6.
Yeah.
You're Jack. And Jack's mom is in the hospital. And so if Jack needs to leave early, or if Jack comes to work or comes to ensemble late, he has some things he's dealing with. And that's okay. That is totally okay. As long as I'm reaching out to Jack to understand what that issue is, then maybe that's me being more gracious. Maybe that's me helping him getting lined up with student counseling. Maybe that's me talking with some of Jack's friends that, you guys should take Jack out to lunch. Just let him know that his classmates care.
Yeah.
But I think there are not words that can be put to how important I think that is in terms of building the culture of, not, like I said, not just band, but societal contributions and the outworking of
Yeah.
what we do.
Just from hearing you talk about those things, I would definitely send my kids to your program, Anthony,
Oh, well, thank you.
because I'm a strong believer that once that culture is established, the music it doesn't take care of itself, but it sure is a heck of a lot easier
Yes.
to make good music when you've got kids that want to be around each other.
Mhm.
In this case, young adults in college.
Well, yeah. I mean, the funniest thing when I was here the first time is we had a student who called me dad just because of the affection of, of an older man to a younger man, dad's son.
I'm in a grandpa stage now. And grandpa, but go ahead.
So what was funny was his second year, we had a freshman come in. And, by the way, for those who aren't able to see, I'm 5'9" black guy. And this kid is a 6'4" white guy, curly hair. I mean, we look nothing alike. But the joke always was, that's my dad. Everyone looks at me kind of like, and I just sort of like shrug my shoulders like, I'm not lying.
Awesome.
So his sophomore year, he's a very gregarious guy, very, just an upstanding human being. He brings a freshman up next to him and he goes, hey dad, this is my brother. And I was like, well, if he's your brother, and then the new guy looks at me and goes, hi dad. And I was like, oh boy. Okay.
The father tree has grown.
And I was like, here we go, and what was exciting about the program was by the time he was a senior, the band, and it wasn't like 100% buy-in, nor did I ever expect it to be, but the band by and large would call themselves brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, that's exactly what you want, and it was sort of like I was band dad,
Yeah.
And there's, like I said, I don't have kids of my own. I'm not married, but for someone who you've only known for 3 years, 4 years, to develop such a relationship that they will call you when they get a flat, or the battery's not working, or they're confused about, is this something I need to go to the emergency room or hospital for? Just that level of openness and trust. I mean, there's nothing more honoring than that. And so I take that extremely seriously, and I want them to feel that way too. When if they decide, well, I want to be a band director, it's like, okay, well, the way I treated you is the way you treat your students. If you felt like this was a great program, the way you honor it is to reproduce it.
Yeah.
Love your kids, show them love. Because to your point earlier, it's the one place where we really get to, and my mother, God bless her, she was a math teacher for 36 years. You, as a math student, you can go really far by yourself. The whole class doesn't need to understand a certain thing for you to move forward. But as you know, with marching band, if everyone's not in the line, it's not a line.
That's
like
right.
You cannot move forward as an ensemble. And my dad taught science for 35 years, and it's the same thing. Like the whole requires all the individuals to be highly functioning. And the more those individual parts actually appreciate and care about each other, it not only raises the group, but it creates a real good burden on you. I have to do great because my colleagues are depending on me to be great. And as I've always said, a good band requires me to be good. I have to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm not, I don't want to say I'm failing, but I'm not I'm not helping my colleagues be their best.
We're letting them down.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that creates, I think, a really good sense of positive motivation and honor. Because you can fall in a ditch on that other side of being a great musician, but also just being kind of a terrible person. And I think we've all encountered that in our professions, where it's like, I mean, you're a great player, but I don't like you because you're rude, and that's kind of a drag too. It's like, I'd rather not play in that group because of some of the people in there and the way they act, or you know what I mean? So I think there's a really fine line. And so when I was here the first time, we created a sort of a tagline, which was "Be His," and The H is humility, the I is intentional, and the S is serving. And my sort of philosophy educationally is such that if you as a band member or member period are sort of thinking of those three things, am I being humble? Like, I'm not trying to be arrogant and being great. I'm trying to be great to as a service. You know what I mean? And am I being intentional with what I do? Guys, if it's late at night and we just broke from band rehearsal, are you walking the girls home? Are you seeing them safe to their dorms? Are you walking to the parking lot, just seeing that they're okay? Like, the intentionality of that, of caring for your classmates, of, she wants to go to the caf and it's 9:30 and it's dark, or darker. Like, you're going to see her to the caf while you're going to the library because they're in the same direction. You know what I mean? Or you just going to aimlessly go, well, I'm out, and leave. You know what I mean? Like, that intentionality of what it is that we do. Why practice on your long tones first before you start working on articulations? Wise, and then the last part, for the reason of serving your colleagues and serving your community, serving, quote, the band. The band is here to serve the school, and the school is here to serve this area of the state. Like, I'm not going to California to recruit kids, but if a kid from California wants to come here, you are more than welcome.
Yeah.
My job is to serve the Oltons and the Lubbocks and the greater Panhandle area of where Wayland was founded. Yeah. And so that's where I burn the road, to go see those cats and to go help those cats. And like I said, to the degree that a kid from Kansas, Oklahoma, New Jersey wants to come to Wayland, more than welcome to. There's no out-of-state tuition. I will open the door to you just as much. Just know that if you're an alum and you go out there, it's going to be harder for me to get out to you because I have to serve my immediate community first. And I feel that if I teach you that and then you go out, then you can be that there. And I'm always there to support you. All you got to do is call me. Or, let's have a chat if you need encouragement or motivate. You know what I mean? So, but that motto, be his, humble, intentional, and serving, has sort of been the driver for the last, I would say, 5 years, because I was at Wayland for 8 the first time. And then we sort of came up with that motto, I think the last 3 years I was here. And then I've never changed it since then. And it sort of followed me through all the high schools I've taught at. And like I said, now that I'm here again, it's the main driver, because like I said, I feel like those three are sort of the pillars of bandsmanship. So yeah.
That's awesome.
That is cool.
Man, I'm just like listening, Mike. It's just probably the quietest I've been on the after my
Hey, and Anthony, is with recruiting. We're recruiting for different things, but I just locked down 4 kids in Canyon for the Skyriders Drum and Bugle Corps.
Nice.
Contracts, and then a 4th one that we extended the contract to. So I feel you, man. It's it's tough because the kids ask real questions.
Yeah.
Back when I was a kid, we just went, do I get some scholarship? Yeah, okay. All right, I'll come there. Yeah, the kids, they ask about the culture. They ask about, it's a smart question, but they ask, will I be safe? Isn't that interesting? Have an 18-year-old kid go, well, Mr. Lunney, will I be safe? Well, what protocols do y'all have set up for, how we do things, as far as culturally and as far as, just things that can happen in groups of people,
Right.
Not to go into too dark a subject, but things can happen to kids. And so kids ask those questions, not the parents. So
Right.
I feel you. So we're both kind of hitting the same trails for different activities on that.
Sure.
So if you've got a few kids that want to be in the Skyriders, have them give me a call.
Yeah. Yeah. Likewise. Yeah. I have a heart for drum corps, especially old drum corps. Cause it was another positive escape.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and the means of working through your instrument. I mean, I remember at my age, 18, 19, it was like, wait, I could be on a bus for an entire summer just playing my instrument. Yes. Sign me up. I'm in. Like, I'm down for that, like, because I was the kid that couldn't get out of the band hall.
Yeah.
Mom or dad is sort of in the parking lot honking the horn. All right, let's go. 5 more minutes, like, can I just do that rep one more time? And, I think part of the hard part sometimes is helping directors understand that may have been you, but remember, you were the anomaly.
Yes.
Like, why are you expecting all of your kids to be that same way? They're not going to be, and that's okay.
Yeah, we were the kids that would cut class to go to the band hall.
Yes.
So what other activity does that? Everyone else cuts class and leaves campus,
Right.
Our break into the band hall during lunch.
Yep.
So you could eat lunch in the band hall without the directors there.
Yeah.
That was our people, man. That was
and then playing the drum set and then get kicked out because drum set's too loud because interfering with choir.
That's right.
Not that I've ever done that. I'm not.
No, yeah.
I've just heard stories of that
I
happening.
heard stories. Those choir directors, I don't know.
But you want. I would argue you want your kids to want to come to you after school.
Yeah.
That's not because per se it's you, but because, like I said before, they just love doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a band of 300, 100, 115, 90, you'd hope it's at least 5 kids, 6 kids, 10 kids that feel that way.
Yeah.
And I think it's sort of foolish, respectfully, to expect your entire band to feel that way. They're not.
Some of this the old coach's term of your team has to have a certain amount of chicken fries on it. The ones that just show for the chicken fried steak.
For sure. Yeah.
So every band has to have its serving of chicken fries that they're there, they'll do the job, but they're not fully vested. But we need those. I call them my middle class band students. I need my middle class band students. And that's our bread and butter, man.
When I teach drumline, we call them blenders.
Blenders.
Yeah, because they just blend into the line. I mean,
I love that. I'm going to steal that.
They just change the sound and you're like, yeah, man, good for you. And it's like, thanks. And then they run off to go, like I said, to go balance equations for chemistry or formulas. And you're like, that's awesome. You're just here to play. You like doing it, and then you leave.
And I'm glad you said that about math because I was one course away from a math degree.
Oh, solid.
I was a computer science major for 2 years before I went to music.
Okay.
And my college band director said, never finish that math degree or they'll make you teach math. And but what you said is exactly correct. I remember in math class, it was so freeing in a way that when I did something in calculus, it was just me versus calculus. I could care. I hate to say that I could care less if everyone around me flunked. It did not matter to me.
Right.
But that's what drew me into band was that whole sense of community of,
tribe.
I'm part of this whole tribe of people that are trying to do something together. And it's just so different. That's what kind of pushed me eventually into music education rather than going the other direction.
Right.
So
I would say band is a really good sense of both and, right? Like there is that team effort and then there's that sense of like, because that the way you said you viewed calculus, me versus calculus, was the way
me versus calculus.
I didn't learn, and a lot of people didn't know this when I started teaching, but I didn't know how to read pitches on the scale on the staff until I was 18, freshman in college.
Okay.
I mean, I was your prototypical, high school boy snare drummer.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't give me pitch. That's lame. That's silly.
Yeah. I did want to play those instruments.
Yeah. I want the most amount of notes and I want to be loud.
Yeah.
And so when I went to college and it was like, well, you want to learn how to teach percussion? Yes, sir. You don't have to learn how to play keyboard. Ooh. Well, I mean, do I have to? Or you could just not do this. And it was like, okay, all right, fine. And so there was that reluctancy there. And
you seem to have learned it. So
I did okay. And so for me, it was like you in terms of I had to turn it into a game. It was like, okay, well, it's me versus Scales.
Yeah.
Who's going to win?
That's right.
And, Scales might win today, but dadgummit, I'm going to win tomorrow. Or I'm going to get it. Like, there's a real sense of, like it's just a game.
Yeah, it is a game.
It got to be really fun when you could learn something new. It was like, I beat you, E flat diminished.
And I'll say, some days I pick up my trumpet and my trumpet wins. Sometimes I pick up my trumpet and I win. but eventually I die and my trumpet eventually wins.
Yeah. Hey, but
It's a game of the game, man. I was practicing at 6:00 this morning.
there you go.
I won today, by the way. Tomorrow I'll lose.
And discipline overcomes passion every day of the week.
Yeah, process over motivation, buddy.
Yep. And I think that's one of those things that, again, when kids are kids, i.e., when they're in the high school phase, passion is motivating a lot of that, like a lot, and that's great. But then when they come into the college world, it's like, oh man, I have this 5-page paper due in English, and I've got this to do in science, and I've got this to do, and it's like, yeah, discipline needs to take over now.
Yeah.
Like it has to be the motivator because it'll get you through the dips in passion.
Yeah.
Or I'm so tired. And it's like, yeah, well, guess who else is tired? Everyone else around you.
And I'd always tell my kids too that the original definition of passion was suffering.
Yes.
In the English language. Isn't that interesting? We use it as a term like we love donuts and we love our girlfriend. But passion was suffering, and said, so you've got a passion. That means you're willing to suffer, right?
Yeah.
They look at you funny. Said, yeah, you're going to have to suffer to get good at this on whatever you're trying to do. But passion is suffering. And then you learn to love it. But the act of passion is suffering,
Yeah. It's
we're getting deep here now, Derrick. Man, I tell you what.
It's very biblical.
Having problems, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a part of what college is it's confronting you. You spent 18 years learning that the world is awesome. It's mostly okay. You have nothing to worry about. That's what parents and guardians are for.
That's right.
And you're great, kiddo, pat on the back, move forward. And then you come to college and it's like, okay, so most of the world's kind of not that great, first of all. Remember how you thought this? That's not necessarily true all the time. Also, remember how we always told you're a great player? Well, now you're the worst one here.
Yeah.
Because you're a freshman.
There's 15 all-staters in the marching band. So it's
love you, buddy. And it's like, aw. And so you're constantly confronted with like, man, I could be better. Man, I could be better. And it's like, yes, but the greatness comes through the willingness and the discipline to, like you said, suffer through that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no greater biblical message than, like the passion of the Christ.
It's right.
Like, he suffered. It was not all lilies and rainbows.
Yeah. So we can learn scales. If Christ did that, we can learn scales.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe remember F sharp. Okay.
Yeah. Considering our accidentals.
So when you have the poster up in your band hall, count it all joy.
Yeah.
Me sure.
Well, and not to mention, because of that, he's worth it. Right? Like,
yeah.
So
right.
It's worth striving to be great because look at what he did.
Yeah.
And so you've got that entire angle of what it means to be sacrificial and great for the service of others, especially as a means of worship to God, right? So you've got that. But then on top of that, it's like, and God's not going to get mad if we are playing your scales and you accidentally played F natural.
That's it. He's not going to fall off the throne. There's no lightning coming down.
It's and I'll tell the joke. It's like, can you imagine God just sitting on the throne and he's like, there's my child. Look at him getting at it. Look at him. Oh, I would have taken that as a service, but that was an F natural. I can't take that.
You need to find another marimba player.
Yeah, unacceptable. Leave me. And
Reboot.
And I'll tell them, I said, is your heart right? Are you really doing this as you're wanting to serve the Lord? Yes? Okay, cool. Are you doing your best to do that? Like, are you actually agonizing to do right by God? Lord, I want to play this well for you. If that's true, then here's where all the pressure is released. You cannot fail. It is literally impossible.
That's right.
If those first two are true, you are guaranteed success. It's a lot like I said before, I'm not a parent, but I can remember when I was a kid in the parent's house and you drew the drawing of the family behind the tree with the sun and they're all stick figures and you gave them to mom and dad and they thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
Picasso, you're awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this is worth this is priceless. Actually, we can't sell this. This is invaluable.
Yeah, my refrigerator's full of grandson drawings right now.
Exactly, right? And I would argue that's how God sees our worship through our practice and our performance.
Yeah.
It will never be perfect. You are not perfect. Just that doesn't mean you don't try to seek excellence. Just know it's not going to be perfect. And if your heart is right, and if you're putting in the work to do that well, God is glorified. The end. He's glorified. And he looks at you and he says, man, look at the work my kid's putting in. That's awesome. Because I gave them that talent and they're re-upping by putting it back to try to serve me. And then what happens is, I would argue, an audience sees that and then they're called to worship. And they might not even know what they're doing. They're going to say, man, that was cool. Yeah. That was awesome. And then if we're doing our job again, we say, well, praise the Lord. Like, I just like to play. You were just here.
Yeah.
I was playing and you just happened to be here to witness that.
Right. I'm going to throw this at you too, Anthony, because I think if I say it right, if all those things are true, then nobody else's opinion really matters.
Correct.
That's right. It's between you and God.
Correct. You're right.
I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. We call that excellence.
Yes.
Doing the best I can with what I've got where I am.
Yes.
And I'm doing it for the right reasons. So you guys can think whatever you want to, because I'm good.
Right. Well, and I think that's where I get in trouble with some directors, because it's like, I don't care about your ones.
Yep.
If I care about my kids and I care about glorifying God through honoring these kids, and I care about them glorifying God through using their service and their talent that God gave them, then to your point, Derrick, I don't care what a judge says.
Yeah.
If it's a 2 and those kids played their hearts out and they understand music better and they understand what that music means and that there's a cultural adaptation and they had a musical moment, we succeeded.
That's right.
That's great.
And I can love them no matter what happens, and they will feel loved and appreciated more, which just sort of creates that feedback loop. They'll want to do it again and they'll want to get even better. And so, sure, we might not have gotten, quote, the ones, but like I said, they understand music and art and social norms and, Lord willing, the Lord deeper than they ever would have before.
Yeah.
So whatever your assessment,
Dr. Anthony King, I've been evangelized today. I know where I'm sending kids now. The other thing is, for all our listeners out there, man, what a lesson for everyone to be reminded of. That it's not about the little trapezoid wooden trophy with UIL on it or whatever it is for your state. You know, it's about what we do with those kids.
Calling. Yeah.
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 All right. I don't want to, but I'm going to. I need you, if you will let us, we'd like to get Wayland information.
Sure.
Rick, we have a website, and Rick posts all this stuff on the website so people have access to it.
Okay.
So maybe a little bit about what the audition process would be for your program, and or just how to get a hold of you so you can walk through that process, whatever it might be.
Okay.
The second thing I want to ask you is, if you don't mind, and somebody would love to have you come step in their band hall and invite you there, a way to get a hold of you.
Okay.
And we will post all that. Rick's very good about doing that. Rick in the chair, we like to call him.
Thank you, Rick. The unknown. I don't see them, but I know you're there.
There's more spirits, man.
We also, listen, Mike, I think I'm not out of turn. We need to come back and revisit some in a different.
This needs to be an additional podcast.
Right. We've got other things we need to talk about.
For sure.
Thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy man. I appreciate what you're doing there. You know, I'm always excited to get to talk to you when we run into each other. And listen, just much respect, my friend.
Well, thank you so much. Much respect to you too.
But how do we get a hold of you, sir?
Okay. There's 2 ways. My main email, I have 2 different ones. The one through the university is KINGA, KINGA, as in Anthony, at wbu.edu. So it's got a lot shorter, a lot easier to memorize.
Yeah.
Last name, first initial, at wbu.edu. In terms of what the audition process is, like I said, it's really, we just want to hear you play.
Yeah.
And the other part is we just want to hear how you interact with people. And, we are, and I don't think it sounds arrogant, but we're mature enough musicians. We know when you're nervous. Yeah. We're gonna take that into account. So it's not about playing your best. It's about playing. You know what I mean? And just being you as a human, because everyone gets nervous. That's a part of what the degree is to help you with, how to deal with those nerves.
Yeah.
So, just play and then have a chat with us, talk. And then based on those two things, we have our various amounts of scholarships that we can offer internally, both, like I said, through the School of Music and externally through the university as a whole. And then that can be in the form of endoweds and whatnot. There is no out-of-state tuition.
Yeah,
so,
I heard that earlier, and I thought, "Whoa,
yeah,
that's a big drop right there." Say that again, Anthony.
Yeah, so there's three things that I think a lot of people need to know about Wayland. One, tuition's going down 10%, almost 10%. It's like if we were super specific, it'd be like 9.6, roughly 10%. So that's one. Two, there is money for people who just want to participate. So let's say there's a student out there who wants to be more criminal justice or more science, which we just got a new science wing built not too long ago. And our undergrads are some of the most published undergrads in the country because of that. So there's money just for being in the program as a participant. And then there's additional money on top of that if you're a major. So those three sort of big drivers of the recruiting aspect, financially speaking. But yeah.
Cool. So all of our friends who teach, who educate, and who have students that you think would appreciate continuing at the next level, we'll have all that posted on the website so you can go find that. Again, Mike, I don't know if you have anything else you want to say. I just want to say thanks, Anthony.
Yeah,
and I just best wishes moving forward, man.
Thank you. Keep us in prayer, and we'll help any way we can.